Okay, Assie's up says, hi, I was watching your explanation about PBNs and IPN hosting, or excuse me, an IP hosting. If I need a class IP for each PBN, why shouldn't I host all my PBNs in one VSP? Okay. He must be in VPS. And use services of Cloudflare like 100 unique IPs and name servers. It would be nice if you would tell me if it's any good. Well, you can. There's just, okay, here's the thing. With Cloudflare, there's a block of IPs. So I don't know that it's 100. You can actually search that in Google and it will show you. Let's take a look at that real quick. But what I would suggest is using multiple third-party DNS services, so you're not just using one. So if you look at IP ranges, so go to cloudflare.com IPs, guys. Here's the IP ranges. Okay, so that's what you got, right? And these are ranges here, so you can see 0 to 20. So right, so there's like 20 IPs, but those are what, class D, right? So that you get, these are all on the same. The only thing that's unique is the last part of, what do they call that, subnet or whatever. So my point is you do have a good list of IPs, but what I would recommend doing, because we've done that too. I mean, like, for example, in the mastermind, we talked about hybrid PBNs. I can't get into the details of that, but hybrid PBNs are where you buy an expired domain, right? You build a PBN on the site, on the root domain, and then you build a bunch of subdomains, and you can host the subdomains on various IPs, right? You don't remember, guys, you can create subdomains and map them using third-party DNS services to other IPs. They don't have to be on the same IP as the root domain. And so we talked about using various sources for, you could use Amazon S3, you could use other cloud storage accounts to host HTML files, you could do other hosting accounts, you could do all of that and map the IPs so that you have multiple IPs for a PBN cluster that's built off one domain with a bunch of subdomains all having unique IPs. Does that make sense? The way that you can do that is using multiple third-party DNS services. My two preferred ones are Cloudflare and Amazon Route 53, okay? And they will give you a range of IPs, and you can do what you're mentioning. But I recommend using just more than just one, like more than just Cloudflare is my point, okay?
And if I could just add, I hate this word PBN, because it's not really PBN. What he's doing is he's probably buying either expired domains or domains with metrics, resurrecting them, setting it up, and then driving a link from that to whatever the destination is. And that's not the definition of a PBN, because a PBN is a set of websites that are linked to each other, right, and built for the sole purpose of providing a link. You had big PBN networks taken down where you'd go in and you could get your URL, in multiple. It depended on how much you paid, and what the tests are showing right now is that a lot of these domains that you guys are buying, especially if they're expired, if you don't do your due diligence and if you don't look carefully at the backlink profile, all you're going to do when you link over from that PBN to the destination is you're going to tank the rankings of the destination website. Remember, I'm warning you. I'm telling you what's happening. I'm not telling you from what I heard. I'm telling you from what I tested and what I know.
Yeah. Now, what about, though, as far as using them as like second or third tier links to power up first or second tiers?
Well, that's what we would do. But right. First, we set those. We don't just have a website sitting there for the sole purpose of setting up or sending a link. We'll add inner pages. We will. I don't know if I should tell all our strategy, but IFTTT, some content marketing on the blog, so that even the blog starts bringing in the so-called PBN starts drawing traffic, starts making you money, and becomes way stronger than something just sitting there providing a link. Yeah. And seriously, it's tested, and it's what's happening. I'm not saying PBNs are dead, but they're a dying breed. You better get it right.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I stopped building PBNs months ago, probably a little over a year ago, because what I'd been doing, and I don't even do this much anymore, but was buying, expired domains using blue chip backlinks, to find them, scrape them, and then buying them, and then just rebuilding the old site with HTML downloaded from Wayback Machine or archive.org, and then just hack my link into the page, and that's it. And the reason I like doing that is because they used to be real sites, right? And that way they look like real sites still. And I don't have to worry about content marketing and all that other shit. Because remember, guys, you buy a brand new domain or an expired domain, and you go and you build a WordPress blog on it with new content and all that other, even if it's in the same topical category that the old site was in, it's still a new domain. It's a new WordPress site. So it's going to look like a PBN unless you really build it out to look like a real business website. What I like about rebuilding old sites is that they look like real business websites because they were real business websites, and I don't have to worry about any of that stuff, right? I don't have to worry about content and then siloing the site properly and adding all the social profiles and all that crap. I don't have to do all that. But even now, I don't even do that very much anymore because we're able to get results not doing it, not having to do it as much. But anyways.
And that's without bringing up the fact that you're linking probably from a sandbox domain over to your money site. Yep. If you don't know how to get that so-called PBN out of the sandbox quick enough.
As far as this, I see looking at the IP, like Rocket IPs, I mean, the price looks good. It's actually a really good price for IPs. The problem that I have with using any sort of providers like these is that they overload the hell out of their IP blocks so that they end up with hundreds of sites on shared IPs. And because it's SEO hosting, right? It's a ton of spammers that have just got a bunch of spammy sites hosted on these IPs, right? And so you end up sharing you put your sites in what they call bad neighborhoods. And all that's going to do is basically cause bad footprint issues because links coming and that's pretty common, guys. And that's over the last couple of years, that's become more and more of a negative factor, right? If you've got, that's why we always recommend, guys, for your money sites especially, that you go out with you go pay for good hosting. And we've been saying that for years because you don't want money sites being hosted in bad neighborhoods. And all it takes to be in a bad neighborhood is to have a few really spammy sites in the same IP block. And that's one of the problems with shared hosting, right? Especially cheap shared hosting. And so these type of SEO hosts here, they literally way overstuff the IPs, way past capacity. And the reason they do it is because they realize that the majority of those sites are used specifically for SEO purposes and don't generate any traffic. They're just websites sitting out there on the web, right? For the purpose of a backlink. And because of that, they, for the most part, most of the vast majority of sites on the shared IPs don't receive any traffic, which means there's very little bandwidth usage. So they can overload the hell out of these IPs, right? But then what happens is if any one of those sites or a number of those sites in that IP block end up receiving traffic for whatever reason, maybe the bots come crawling like crazy on a handful of sites, or maybe somebody actually strikes it lucky with a promotional campaign or something, who knows? If any amount of bandwidth, like if a number of those sites start to receive traffic, it can end up tanking the whole entire block, right? So all of the sites go down. And that's another common thing you'll see with IP or SEO hosting is that your sites, especially if you put an uptime monitor on them, like UpRobot or something like that, that will notify you of when the sites go down, you'll get hammered with notifications about how often your sites go down. And it's because, again, the IP blocks are way overloaded. So I don't recommend it. What your actual question about using a VPS and using Cloudflare and various DNS services is a better way to go, in my opinion, than IP hosting or SEO hosting. And the reason why is because if it's a VPS, you're going to have essentially dedicated bandwidth for that, right? That's for your particular VPS. And so you'll have a lot more control over that and a lot less chance of your sites going down. Okay. But make sure that if you're going to do that, you got to get your SOA records, like you got to, your name servers, your SOA records, all that kind of stuff. You have to be real careful about setting all that up, Assy.